So a few years ago, I made this gorgeous pumpkin cheesecake for my sister Hannah's birthday. And it was actually one of the first pictures I ever posted on the blog. I just never posted the recipe for it. So today we're gonna be making that. It is going to be a pumpkin cheesecake with a delicious gingersnap crust as the base, and then sprinkle it with caramel and chocolate on top. Here we go. Okay, so I'm super excited. I ordered this tiny little mini cheesecake pan because I love cheesecake, but I cannot eat a whole 10-inch cheesecake between the two of us. So this is a 6-inch cheesecake pan. I just took my normal recipe and I cut it down by half, and then we'll see how it turns out. So we're gonna start by making the crust. What I have here is 6 ounces of good gluten-free gingersnap cookies. I put them in this blender, blended them up till they're a nice super fine powder. This will make up the crust, so I'm just gonna pour this in a bowl. Get all that out. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of melted butter. And then 1 tablespoon of regular brown sugar. And we're just gonna give that a mix till it's all nice and wet and evenly distributed. So once that's all nice and moistened throughout, we're just gonna go ahead and add this to the bottom of the cheesecake pan. And I'm gonna spread it evenly across the bottom and also up the sides a little bit so it holds the filling in place. That way when we remove the sides of the pan, the cheesecake will still hold. It looks really thick right now, but just gonna push this in. So once this is all evenly distributed, I have it partway up the sides on everywhere. I'm just gonna stick this in the refrigerator while I make the filling so that the butter doesn't melt all over when we bake it. I went and preheated the oven to 350 degrees before I started my filling and while the cheesecake crust is in the fridge. So I have all my ingredients measured out just to make our process a little bit easier. So I'll go through exactly what I have with you. So I have all my ingredients here that we're gonna need. I used this is a half a can of pure pumpkin. I actually used the other half yesterday to make some delicious pumpkin muffin. So this is 7.5 ounces of pure pumpkin here. Then we have 12 ounces of cream cheese. So this is a package and a half. We have 1 egg plus 1 egg yolk, 3/4 cup or 150 grams of sugar, 30 grams or 1/8 a cup of sour cream. We're gonna do half a teaspoon of vanilla, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 a teaspoon of ginger, and like a little over 1/8 a teaspoon of allspice. And that'll make up our mixture. So we're gonna start by adding some softened cream cheese to our stand mixer here. I just let this sit out about 30 minutes at room temperature just to soften a little bit. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our 150 grams of sugar. And we'll get that going. I'm just gonna let it get all nice and fluffy and mixed together. And then I just shut it off. I'm gonna scrape down the sides halfway through, and then we'll let it beat a little bit more just to get soft. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and add our pumpkin. So I'm just gonna push that right in there. And you don't wanna get the pumpkin pie filling, you wanna get the just 100% pure pumpkin like Libby's, or this is an organic one, but whatever is fine as long as it's just pure pumpkin. And then we're just gonna turn this back on and scrape down the sides as we need to. Okay, so that looks good. Now we're just gonna add in our egg and our egg yolk and mix that up. We're gonna mix it just a little bit. We don't want too much air to get into the batter or you'll have more chance of it cracking. So I'm just gonna put it in when I have the mixer on low. Alright, so that's mixed in. Just gonna make sure nothing's stuck on the sides here. And then we'll go ahead and add our sour cream. So it's just 1/8 of a cup, just a little bit to make it a little bit more creamy. Okay, I'm gonna turn the mixer on and then I'm gonna go ahead and add our vanilla extract and spices. That was cinnamon, this is ginger, and then allspice. And that's it. Making the filling is as simple as that. It's all creamy, it's nice and incorporated, so we're just gonna go ahead and grab our crust out and then fill it. So I took the crust out of the refrigerator. It's nice and cold. I'm just gonna go ahead and add the filling that we made to it to the top. It's okay if it goes over it. And I'm just gonna give it a little tap. Get any stuck air bubbles out. You can see little ones popping up. So those can turn into cracks super easily if you don't do this step. Since my pan is so full and the cheesecake is gonna be so thick, I'm gonna do it in a water bath. Traditionally, you would wrap the bottom of your springform pan in tin foil and then put that directly in a pan that has water in it. But sometimes I find that the water can leak through the tin foil. There's like tiny little micro cracks in the tin foil. So instead what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put our cheesecake into a bigger pan and then put the bigger pan into an even bigger pan. And then I'm going to fill the biggest pan up with water about halfway, and then we'll put it in the oven to bake. We're heating up a bunch of water on the stove top right now to get it nice and hot, because if you put cold water in this pan and then you put it in the oven, it's gonna take an eternity to get hot and bake. So we're gonna start with hot water and then put it in the oven to bake. So instead of testing my balancing skills with super hot water, I'm gonna actually put this in the oven first, and then I'm gonna pour the hot water in the pan. That'll be a lot safer. All right, so the cheesecake baked at 350 for 1 hour. That's how long it took for me to get this so that it was just slightly jiggly in the middle. You can't tell anymore, because what you do after it's cooked is just put a little oven mitt in the oven door. You turn the oven off so it's just barely cracked open, and leave it in there for another 15 minutes. Then you're gonna pull out the entire thing, leave the cheesecake in the water bath, and let it sit for another 45 minutes. After that, we'll take it out, put it on the cooling rack to cool further. Alright, so it's been cooling in the water bath for about 45 minutes. So the next step, we're just gonna take it out of these pans and leave it on the wire cooling rack to cool for another hour or two until it's pretty cool to the touch. And then what we're gonna do is cover it in tin foil and put it in the fridge. Alright, so once your pumpkin cheesecake is at room temperature, it's been about an hour and a half. You're just gonna wrap it with plastic wrap or tin foil, whatever you have, nice and tightly. We'll try to make sure it's not touching. And then you're just gonna refrigerate it. I would recommend refrigerating at least 4 hours or overnight. Since it's already dark outside, I'm just gonna refrigerate it overnight, and then we'll do the decorations tomorrow. All right, so it's the next day. The cheesecake has been sitting in the refrigerator overnight. It looks beautiful, but I'm not gonna show you yet. First, what I'm gonna do is show you, I like to be a little extra, as you already know, so I like to drizzle a little bit of chocolate sauce and caramel sauce over the top. I have caramel sauce made already from a recipe that I used a different time, but I'm gonna show you how to make a super easy chocolate sauce to go over the top. You're gonna start with a cold sauce pot, just a little one. Into that, you're gonna add 1/8 cup or 12 grams of cocoa powder, and then you're gonna add 1/4 cup or 50 grams of sugar. So put that in your pot and just stir it around. That cocoa powder likes to clump up, so we're just trying to get those lumps out. Okay, so to that you're just gonna add a dash of salt. Stir that in, and then you have here is 1/8 cup of water. So 30 mils of cold water. And we're gonna stir that all together. And then we're gonna actually go over to the stove. So we'll put it on the stove, we'll let it come to a boil. And then we'll turn it down to let it simmer for 30 seconds while we're stirring it continuously. And then I'll meet you back over here. So after it's done simmering, you're gonna let it sit on the counter just for a couple minutes. I stirred it just to let it cool down a tiny bit. And what we're gonna do is add in the vanilla extract, a little less than a half a teaspoon. Add that in, stir it all up. And then what we're gonna do is just let this cool down in the refrigerator until we're ready to use it. Okay, y'all, it's the moment of truth. I just pulled our cheesecake out of the refrigerator. I'm gonna take this plastic wrap off. See that? No cracks. Thank you, water bath. Just gonna put this up here. Look at that. So I'm just gonna put a piece of parchment paper down while I drizzle on the chocolate and butterscotch sauce. That way it'll catch any drips. All right, so once you've drizzled it, you can go ahead and get a slice out, and it's time to enjoy. The written recipe will be below, or you can find it on our website, nomadegf.com. Thank you.